Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Adam Winters. I'm Joe Gould, and we're talking about Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. I'm sure we'll be talking about the Richard Lester cut as well.
There's a whole lot of Richards in the first three Superman movies.
I guess there are, aren't there?
There's a Richard, there's a headlining Richard in each one. There's a Donner, there's a Lester, there's a Pryor.
Huh. What do you know? So Superman 2 originally came out in 1980. The Richard Donner cut, the infamous infamous edition.
Really? How infamous?
Very infamous.
Okay.
Is it more infamous or less infamous than the 1990 Fantastic Four movie?
Well, I've never heard anybody try to compare the two. It's about 20 years old now, isn't it? The Richard Donner cut?
Yeah, 2006.
Were people clamoring on social media, which didn't really exist in 2006, to release the Donner cut? Or were they writing letters, or were they petitioning people at Comic-Cons? Because I've forgotten the history about who was asking for it, other than, I guess, Richard Donner and film historians.
Yeah, I know that there was a clamoring for it, and that you had basically bootleg versions that people had tried to cobble together, looking at, the American release and then some of the international releases, which might have been a little bit different. I don't know.
The TV edits, I hear some of that footage worked its way into TV edits of the film.
Yeah, allegedly there's really like 4 edits to this movie, which is weird to me. It's still hard for me to wrap my mind around recording extra footage for basically the Sunday night TV showing of it. Like, these movies are long enough.
Yes,
aren't they long enough?
Well, a lot of times they'd split them up into 2 nights.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I feel like you are the subject matter expert on this.
Huh.
So, where do you want to start?
Have you seen this before? Or when's the last time you saw the what do we call the Lester cut? Are we just calling that Superman 2, or do we need a better name for that?
I'm happy with Superman 2 or the Lester cut.
When's the last time you'd seen either one of these?
I'm not sure if I had seen the Richard Donner cut. If I had seen it, I probably saw it with you back in college.
Okay. Well, it'd be after college.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been out yet. So I probably have never seen it. I may have seen a few clips of certain things.
All right.
The Superman 2 itself, I probably watched it because I owned it. Probably 10 years ago I watched it. So I watched the Lester cut on Thursday and Friday this past week, and then I watched Donner cut on Sunday. So
let me pitch this to you. The Donner cut, in my opinion, is not a sequel to the original Superman movie. It's a sequel to a Superman movie that had a different ending, that nobody knows how it ended.
Yeah, it's like from the multiverse. So, and I think this is something where I did not fully grasp this until getting ready for this episode. And that is, in my mind, now, again, we didn't have the internet back when we would have had discussions about this, or not good internet. But I was under the impression that Donner got fired because he wanted to use the same ending that he used in 1 for part 2. And that is completely not accurate.
Yeah, never heard anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you always heard like the ending for 1 and 2 was going to be the same by Richard Donner. And the reality is, that's not how it works. These movies were filmed concurrently. I don't understand why, but they basically were filming scenes for both movies at the same time.
Save money on set design, right?
I guess.
And probably the Marlon Brando factor was an issue there.
Yeah, I can see that too. But for the most part, if a movie's filming back to back, like they're going to film the sequel at the same time, I'm pretty sure they don't literally film both movies at the same time. They do one and then they do the other.
In this case, my understanding is Donner had it all planned out, what scenes he wanted in both films, and he organized them by set. So if he has a set, like the Fortress of Solitude or the planet Krypton, he's filming all the scenes that he's going to need when he has that scene available, that set piece.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that, well, needless to say, filming ran long.
And expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time and money.
Donner, he started butting heads with, what's the guy's name? Alexander Salkind?
I don't know if it was both or one of them or what, but yeah, he was butting heads because they were paying the bills and they were hoping to make it all back, but they were producing it.
And then in order to make the release date for the first movie, they wanted, or I'm not sure who made this decision. I guess it was probably the studio. They wanted to use their most expensive scene in the end of the first movie and not save it for the second. So they rewinded time in the first movie instead of doing whatever he'd originally planned. which I can't recall off the top of my
And
head.
apparently it wasn't very dramatic, but it did involve Superman sending a nuclear rocket into space. And when that rocket blew up, they would tease the release of the Kryptonian criminals for a second movie. So that was going to be
Yes.
part of it. It just probably doesn't. I'm guessing Lois doesn't die in Donner's original
I
cut.
would imagine not. Yeah.
Because there'd be no reason to go back in time for that.
Yeah. So basically, for purposes of this Richard Donner cut, the guy who helped really put it back together, Michael Thau, they basically used the original ending of the second movie, which was going to be reversing time, and they worked it into this one. So in practice, if you're just watching Superman 1 and then Superman 2, the Donner cut, and you didn't know any better, you would believe that they used the same ending twice on purpose. In reality, Donner said at least one interview that he was going to change the ending, and it is assumed, I don't know if he explicitly said, that the kiss would be used to mind swipe Lois at the end of the movie.
Surely not. See, I don't recall ever seeing it in print or audio, even though he says we would have figured out a new ending if I'd come back for the second one. He never hints what that would be. He probably talks about how dumb the forget-me-not kiss was, but he was just going to figure that out. And since he didn't have to, he's never kicked around it. I mean, he's dead now, but I never heard him kick around any ideas for how to actually put a new ending on two, other than what Lester
I think
did.
I heard that on a podcast yesterday. I was watching last night that Michael Thau was on, that he said they had kicked around the idea. I don't think they had locked anything in. I don't think they had gotten that far into it.
Yeah, it's all hypothetical
That
now.
kiss, I guess that kiss does have some kind of roots in the comics.
Silver Age, most likely. That was the whole deal where Lois was trying to figure out Superman's identity every week, and eventually they gave her own comic book series to do just that.
Okay. It is a little ironic that it is possible that Richard Lester used what would have been the true ending for the Donner cut with the mind swipe kiss.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It would require more research, but there's some irony in there buried under some other stuff.
I don't know which one I hate more. I think I hate the time reset more.
I hate the laziness of that.
It invalidates two movies instead of one. Even in the first one, it didn't invalidate the whole movie, but this movie, I don't know. I mean, how much? It's just so weird to me.
I think it goes against what superheroes stand for. Like, Spider-Man is shaped by his failures.
Yep.
Superheroes, they tend to be shaped by their failures. So if you have the ability to, anytime you don't pass the class, you just go back in time and take the test again with no repercussions. It's like, come on, lazy.
All the Flash stories teach us that's really not as easy of a fix as you think it is. Flashpoint and all that. So that's how we've come a little farther. We've had at least several movies based on the Flashpoint idea, either animated or live action, and they may not be very good, all of them.
Well, I will say in this movie, going back in time, it's not really clear. Like, it doesn't seem to, like, everything got reversed. Just certain things. I don't know.
It suggests somehow it takes place off screen. Superman made different decisions at key points that changed things so that he could return to the present and things would be proceeding somewhat normally, but you're not clear what did or didn't happen at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I think both endings are stupid, the kiss and the turning back time. But I think the turning back time is, in addition to being stupid, it's lazy.
There's a Marlon Brando angle, which he's sort of the reason this Donner cut got made. And it comes out around the same time as Superman Returns, a movie I'm not a fan of, but they were able to make a deal with Brando's estate to use previously recorded stuff for Superman Returns. The same deal allowed them to dig up the Brando footage that Richard Lester and the Salkinds didn't want to put into a new sequel because Brando wanted $50 million from Warner Brothers, I think. And he would also argue, you only contracted me for one movie, now you're making two with me in it. So they replaced him with Superman's mother. Do you have thoughts on Superman's mother in the Superman 2 cut?
I was trying to remember, because I did not watch Superman 1 in preparation for this, if that was the person who played his mother in the first movie.
I believe so. If not, she's very good likeness. She had a nice role in the first movie, but it really wasn't anything like Brando. I think that is the reason why the Donner cut does it better, because that was a decision all about money to replace Brando with Superman's mother, or Jor-El to replace Jor-El with what's her name, Laura Lee L. What, Laura, Laura,
I don't remember.
Laura Beth
I mean,
L.
in defense of the producers, after the lawsuit for Superman 1, Brando would have been getting about 12, just under 12% of the gross for Superman 2.
Yeah, he
And
wanted
that is a
all
lot of money.
royalties. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
crazy. So, but again, and people have argued it's a nice personal touch that Superman wants to ask his mother for advice about his personal problems, as opposed to his father, who's been the only Kryptonian voice that was established in this continuity. And I'm thinking you could make that argument, but that is not the way Superman 2 does it. It's not that smart. It it's more effective when you have the big floating Brando head in this Donner cut for that sequence.
I agree. It's definitely more effective. Again, with Marlon Brando being reasonable, asking for 12% of the profits, probably not for the amount of screen time.
There's a plot thread that it really bugs me about the first two Superman movies. And you may remember it from Superman 1, when Jor-El is instructing Superman about all the knowledge of Krypton in preparation for him to be Superman. He has that line about, "You shall not interfere with human history." And when Superman loses Lois in the final cut of Superman 1, you get that flashback in the form of Jor-El trying to warn him against interfering in human history, but Superman says, not literally, but he says figuratively, screw it, because he's going to bring back the woman he loves, and he does that big primal yell, and it's a dramatic ending to the first film, and you get this nice little happy ending with no apparent consequences, but the fact that he disobeyed Jor-El and interfered with human history should open up consequences. That's a natural hook for a second film, and in
Yeah.
neither cut of Superman 2 does that have any consequences. In the Donner cut, he didn't do that, and so the only reason the Phantom Zone got broken was the nuclear missile, which wasn't a result of time travel. That was just regular Superman trying to save the day. In the theatrical cut of Lester, the Kryptonians get unleashed also by a nuclear bomb, but because he pulled it out of the Eiffel Tower and he threw it into space at the beginning of the movie. Neither one of those leads to the consequences of the Kryptonians getting loose.
Now, like I said, it's possible that Donner would have worked something into the second movie since he had to use his ending on the first one, but you never know.
So at least with the Donner cut, you have evident tension between Superman and Jor-El. Did you catch that when he argues with him about wanting to love a mortal woman?
Yeah, which I still don't know why he had to depower himself.
Oh, we can talk about that later whenever you want to. But just on the fact of, it's nice to have the tension between Kal-El and Jor-El. And I'm not sure if that's supposed to be building on Superman's disobedience at the end of the first film or not. I'm not sure, but he didn't give him any lip in the first movie up until he just does that act because he loves Lois to bring her back from the dead. It seems like it's organic in the Donner cut, but maybe they didn't have the footage, or maybe Donner just wasn't interested in that too much when he's editing this together.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I always wondered about old Marlon Brando, his little AI machine. Like, how there is he? Because it seems to go back and forth on that.
Do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's artificial intelligence of his consciousness, or is it just mere recordings? Because in the Lester cut, it comes across as mere recordings at times.
Yes, and especially with Luther's there.
Well, oh yeah, both cuts. Because yeah, the Donner cut has Brando head reciting the Phantom Zone history without recognizing Luther as somebody different. Even though when Superman depowers himself, we get that nice little shot of the Donner head side-eyeing Lois, which suggests it's a little bit more aware at that moment. In the Lester cut, we get Superman's mother, but also a Kryptonian archivist who explains the Kryptonian situation to Luther, and that again is more recording. But you also get direct interaction in both cuts between either the mother or the father and Superman.
Yeah, maybe the consequences for Clark interfering with humankind is ultimately we get Skynet out of this.
Man, go figure. In the third movie, he has to fight machines, right?
There you go.
I like and nobody else does. He has to go up against the computer.
So, what did you think of some of the key different scenes? Let's start with this. Lois is suspicious of Clark being Superman,
Yes, that's good.
and you get two very different ways of that playing out in these movies.
I think I like the Donner version better. I'm not sure, but it begins with her drawing on the newspaper and putting the suit and hat and glasses over a picture of Superman, and it
Get more
leads
of
to
that.
her jumping out of a window, which I think is pretty bizarre, but enjoyable. People in this movie, they fall a long time.
So, what I wish they had done, because I find her jumping out of the window at the beginning of the movie a little bit too much.
Yeah,
She
it
seems
is.
very confident, and
It is too much.
whereas in the Lester cut, she had the convenience factor of them being at Niagara Falls and Superman happening to be there at the
Yes,
same time Clark is, which gives her that extra little boost to jump the ledge.
she could yell to Superman for help and be a little bit more confident he could hear that.
If there had been some reason for Superman to have been there conveniently and then she decided to jump out the window, I would have liked that more.
So while I agree with you, that is too much for Lois, I would say that in the Lester cut, Clark Kent's attempts to out himself to Lois are also too much. I don't know if you remember any of that. The Lester cut opens with Clark walking across a city street and waving at Lois. He almost gets hit by a car. Well, in fact, he really did.
He does,
He,
yeah.
and he's it seems like he's wanting her to notice, and then when he gets to Daily Planet, he goes in and he tries to make her orange juice. She has a little orange juice machine, which I don't know if you noticed. There's a lot of orange juice references in the Donner cut, at least two, and it's just a little bit odd that they're pressing the orange juice. Now in the Lester cut, which makes me think Donner would have shot this footage but didn't use it. Superman is making Lois oranges, freshly squeezed orange juice, using oranges, and he intentionally presses the presser down on his thumb, hoping that she'll notice. But she doesn't. And so it's just
Yeah.
this sequence of Clark trying to reveal himself to Lois without actually saying it. So I like Lois initiating that more than I do Clark having mixed signals about the deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I might phrase it differently. I feel like Clark is flirting as Clark in the Lester cut, trying to get Lois's attention, and then they play up the jealousy that he has about Superman.
Which is
And
weird.
she just yeah, and then she has no interest in him until he quote unquote accidentally outs himself by falling onto the fire, which I hate that scene
He
because
tripped
Superman's
over
not
a
going to
bear
trip
rug.
over a rug. Yeah. Wouldn't happen. First off, the bear rug's gonna move before his foot doesn't. He's Superman.
Yeah.
So I really hate that scene. That being said, I appreciate the fact that she didn't jump off a building at the beginning of it. Now in the Donner cut, I do appreciate that she's taking the initiative. That she's suspicious. I think they do the jump too quick. But then I
Yeah.
also like how she outsmarts him, improving their point, where she shoots him with the blanks, and he doesn't realize they're blanks.
That's
and
kind of
gives
funny
himself
that
up.
Superman wouldn't notice that. But hey, why not?
It's
maybe
more plausible
it's a-
than tripping over a rug.
It is a screen test. I'm thinking it would have been reshot.
They had to
Yeah.
put that together in an odd way, anyways, because he wasn't acting with Reeve
Yeah.
wasn't working with
Kidder.
Kidder, and then Kidder wasn't working with Reeves.
It is spliced together very nicely, and they also said that was before he got into shape and started training with Darth Vader, Frankenstein, David Prowse
Yeah,
for bodybuilding.
he also had longer hair.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, yeah, it's whatever, but it's good. It's very well done the way they worked that back into the film, and I do prefer that very much over Superman 2 Lester cut.
Yeah, and I don't know that they could have made this movie without that test screen.
Oh man,
I don't know what they
Yeah.
would have done.
yeah,
In my opinion, that scene is more important than the Brando stuff. You could still make the movie without Brando. Donner wouldn't, but you could.
yeah. They dedicated it to Christopher Reeves, so yeah, I agree with you. It is more Reeves' film than Brando.
But yeah,
So when they get to the Fortress of Solitude, are we going to skip to that?
we can.
The fornication and the logic of giving up his powers to love a mortal woman, which in theory I think is very interesting. In practice, neither one of these movies impressed me with how they go about that process.
No, I will say the first movie, I'll say the Lester cut, you do get a little more, and this is really at the end of the movie, so it's actually after all this happens, but it does help explain it a little bit. Is Lois is very upset about the fact that every day she has to share Superman with the world and not even be able to have conversations with him.
Was it that
about
and the
truth.
fact that she's a reporter and she knows the biggest story and can't talk about it? Was that worked in as
Yeah,
well? Okay.
I think a little bit, but I think it's more of she's really upset that she doesn't get to have Superman, but everyone else does.
Okay.
I think they gloss over that in the Donner cut.
I mean, heck, if she just wanted Superman, jump off a building, right?
I mean, read the comics, Lois. There's ways to do this.
Oh man,
But
yeah. The whole idea of the superhero and the mortal life, because I think Spider-Man 2 with the director, I'm blanking on his name. He was
Raimi?
inspired. Sam Raimi. He was inspired by Superman 2 at points when it comes to the love story and giving up the superhero life. Spider-Man 2 does that better than Superman 2, but
Absolutely.
in concept, it's pretty good. You know, I give the idea credit.
Well, in the Spider-Man movies, they're running with the idea that anyone who knows his secret identity is at risk.
Which they were anyway. And so too in the Superman movies. Everybody who's close friends with Superman is already at risk because they're
Superman
close.
But Superman can turn back time.
Man, no consequences apparently.
Nope, just Skynet.
Oh, okay. So, in my opinion, in the Donner cut, Superman already has it all. Once Lois figures out his secret identity, and they get to take their fake honeymoon, which is an odd plot. I don't remember why it's there, but they get to take their fake honeymoon all the way to the North Pole to spend a little weekend in the Fortress of Solitude, cooking some fondue. That only happens in the deleted scenes. I don't know if you saw that, but
I think I did see it. Was that in the Lester cut too?
Okay, it's a deleted scene in the Lester cut. I don't know. Maybe Lester filmed that, but it's sort of set up like they're about to have sex, but really it's fondue because Superman's in full costume and they're doing their dinner. But in the Donner cut, while the world is falling apart, we get a scene of Superman and Lois in the shiny bed together. We don't know exactly what happened, but I assume we're supposed to just what it looks like. Superman gets up, then he goes to talk to Jor-El about wanting a normal life. Well,
yes.
In the Lester cut, all that happens before Superman and Lois go to bed together. So
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
At least in the Lester cut,
there's some Hulk implications there.
We assume they fornicated in both cuts, even though I think Donner said he regrets having Superman sleep with Lois, and I say great. But it's sort of still in both movies. So in the Lester cut, it's set up in the way that if he wants to be able to do that, he's got to be immortal. Whereas in the Donner cut, I don't think that's a problem. Again, what's really the problem here that Superman feels like he has to give up being Superman? Does Jor-El put that idea in his mind? But why would he go and talk to Jor-El just after he spent a little time in bed with Lois?
Well, and the irony too is that the Lester cut is the canon cut. And even though he had depowered himself, he had a kid.
Who had I forget.
Yeah, Superman Returns, and he had powers at the end.
I can't remember how they did the power bit on the kid. Even though Cyclops was raising his son for him, with good practice for Sonic the Hedgehog, by the way. Raising a super kid.
Nice. So were there any other than the tone of the movie, are we missing any big scenes that were different?
Well, as far as the first half of the movie, Lester added the Eiffel Tower scene. Donner had more of Perry White sending them on the honeymoon suite. Lester had Lois jumping into Niagara Falls.
Yeah, so that would be another small difference, is Lois was thoroughly not excited about the trip in the Lester cut, and she was thrilled about it in the Donner cut because it gave her an opportunity to work on outing Clark.
Yeah, Lois is better in the Donner cut first half. She doesn't do much in the second half of either cut, but she is better with that.
She's a much better character in the Donner cut, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Lex Luthor, I was thinking his jailbreak was a little bit different, but they filmed alternative jailbreaks.
All of Luthor's scenes where Gene Hackman's actually there.
Yeah, that's right.
With his bad bald cap is the Donner cut.
But I think Donner filmed two escape possibilities. One was he was going to get a car. He was going to drive off in the warden's car with Miss Teschmacher, and the other, which it makes it into both movies, is Miss Teschmacher breaks him out in a hot air balloon, and we don't really see Otis again in either cut for the remainder of the films.
Who also did all his filming with Donner.
It's weird Donner wouldn't do anything else with him. They forget about Miss Teschmacher.
Well, it was with his contract. So
Well,
I think he may have wanted to, but he ran out of time when they had to
okay.
push up everything for the first release.
The lady who does Miss Teschmacher, she mushes Lucer to the North Pole to the Fortress of Solitude, and presumably after she mushes him back, we never see her again. And I found that weird. That in neither cut is there anything to do with Miss Teschmacher.
Well, you have the same problem with Luthor in both versions as he's left in the North Pole.
Okay, there's a deleted scene in the Donner cut that shows what happened after the conflict, which shows what happens with Lucer and the Kryptonians. Did you get to watch any of that?
I did not. No, the Kryptonians, they just fell into the abyss of the floor.
You think they died? Apparently not.
Well, apparently in the TV version, it is shown. I guess they used that deleted scene where they get arrested or whatever.
Yep.
They added it for the TV.
Superman calls the Arctic police, who show up in some jeeps, and they take
Sounds
all
like a
three.
Lester move.
They have all three of the Kryptonians, and very clearly Gene Hackman, who's trying to negotiate a real estate agreement with Superman, and even tries asking for 1% of all profits. So it looks like in the Donner cut, the actual Donner cut, it looks like he leaves Lex Luthor in the Fortress of Solitude and then destroys it, which I thought was pretty hardcore. But I don't know if that's what happens or not. Richard Donner could have.
I don't think they ever make a implication that Superman's killing people. So I didn't take it that way. I took it as a loose thread.
Now, the Kryptonians, you would just assume killed themselves when they fall into the Arctic gaps and get frozen solid.
Well,
but
we don't know how big the holes are. We don't know what the landing is either.
But if you turn back time, I guess it doesn't matter either way.
That's true.
Wait.
Right.
You know what? What was stopping Superman from just doing that while he was trying to fight the three Kryptonians? That would have worked just as well, right? He was fighting them 3-on-1?
Well, he hadn't come to the realization with Lois that yet. He hadn't embraced the idea that he had the mind wiper.
We're talking about the Donner cut, because he doesn't have any kind of special conversation. In the Donner cut, he takes her home. He flies her home, and he says, "See you at work tomorrow." And it's just kind of like they're not really into going back to the status quo, but they feel like they have to.
Yeah.
And then he turns back time while she's typing up on her typewriter at home, and Perry White's trying to brush his teeth.
She's writing a story that you're not quite sure if she's going to print.
Oh, man.
So we're going to run out of time if we're not careful.
Yeah.
I find a major plot hole in the Donner cut that's not as big of a problem in the Lester cut. And that is when Lex is at the fortress and he learns about Zod and his crew. And he says, I have to meet these people. And he just assumes that they're out. Why would he assume that they got out?
He has a device, the Alpha Wave Tracker. I think that's in both cuts.
Oh, you are right about it.
That's why he's able to know Superman's hideout, because he had tracking on Superman going north, and he was also able to track the three Kryptonians.
There was a line there. Okay,
yeah.
You're right. Not a plot hole.
Look at me defending Donner. Man, how about that?
Well, I mean, it's surprising there's not more plot holes because of the way they had to cobble the footage back together, honestly.
Yeah, it is a miracle. I think the Donner cut, in my opinion, is probably better than the Snyder cut of Justice League. There's an unpopular opinion, I guess, but
hey, I appreciate one thing about the Donner cut is it takes about 10 minutes off the movie.
It is shorter.
I think it helps.
Yeah,
it helps.
It was hard to go back and watch the theatrical with all the extra stuff, which is fun, but it doesn't necessarily justify its extra runtime, the fun stuff that was put in extra.
Yeah, and that's really the difference between the two movies also, is the tone in the Lester cut is a lot more slapstick-ish. Even the main villains, they make more jokes. A lot of the chaos scenes, they run longer. You'll have a guy having a conversation, knocked over a phone booth, and he just keeps talking while the world's blowing by around him.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
There was stuff like that in the original movie. There's a quote Richard Lester gave in an old documentary, which I do like. And he's probably taking a little bit too much credit. But he said, the first movie made you believe a man can fly. For the second movie, everybody says, of course a man can fly. What else can he do? And so the implication is get in a supervillain fight while flying. And this movie is pretty good about that. Either cut, Lester filmed the Metropolis or New York City, the battle scenes. And it's pretty good for 1979, 80, whatever you want to say. That would be all Lester. So they had to use that for the Donner cut, because Donner didn't get around to that big fight sequence. I knew people who for years said Superman 2 was their favorite superhero movie. That was before the MCU, so who knows. But I think it was largely because of that city battle scene that they loved it so much. It was just so impressive for the time.
Oh, it was good. The one in the little towns could be, I could go without that one.
Yeah,
But
Superman doesn't fight there, though, does he?
no, but I just find the whole scene like the
Yeah,
supervillains are taking over the world. They're starting with a town of 45 people.
123 plus 3, I
Yeah.
think, is what they...
Yeah,
East
and
Houston.
that's where they learned that the White House existed.
I like the Houston gag, where Zod assumes the planet is called Houston. I like that.
No, that's good. That's good. But I do agree that the main villains are a lot more menacing because they're not humorous or like stupid humorous too, not like on purpose.
It's funny
Yeah.
that after all these years, most people still haven't given Superman better movie villains than Lex Luthor and General Zod.
They still use them.
Even they turned Zod into Doomsday, and that was pretty dumb. But they just can't get over Superman 2 and General Zod. It's like that's the end all be all for Superman supervillains.
The thing is, I like Zod, but I do feel like, especially in this movie, it's just a little bit underwhelming. Like,
A little bit.
Part of it's because he's about 115 pounds soaking wet.
It works because there's 3 of them, and they make a big deal of that. We are 3, he is 1.
Yeah. And then I liked Zod in the new movie. I think that was probably one of the better things in the franchise when they tried to reboot it all.
Even though he was
forget who
1 and
played him.
Superman was 1, and Superman snapped his necky.
Yeah, I don't like the outcome, but I like the way they portrayed him
Yeah.
as the equal, so to speak.
So the ending. What do you think of all the constant? We have a depowering machine, but also a repowering machine.
Well, that confused me a little bit too because I thought the machine kind of got blowed up when he repowered himself.
It's
and then
unclear.
They used it again to depower.
Yeah.
So I would have liked a little more. I don't know how you would have fixed that.
My critique of both cuts is that Lois, for whatever reason, seems impressed when Superman gives up his powers for her in both cuts. But we already know she's more attracted to Superman than she is Clark Kent. So what happens when you have Clark Kent with Superman's personality, but not his abilities? Does that still hit the same way for her? And then, at that point, Lois has no agency in the film because somehow they get home from, maybe they drive from the Fortress of Solitude. Or they get to that bar, and I guess Lois takes the car back to Metropolis, and Clark hoofs it on foot back to the Fortress of Solitude, and they don't really have any meaningful scenes until after the villains are defeated together.
No, I think she would have had some buyer's remorse.
Oh, yeah. She already did when he got beat up by that redneck in the Nova Scotia cafe, or wherever it was.
Yeah. No, I think they kind of wasted that plot point, plot thread. They didn't need to do it. The main thing was she knew his identity, and he couldn't have that at the end. That's really what the thing's about anyways.
Yeah, not executed very well, because again, why can't he have that?
Yeah.
He's clearly had it in other Superman media. But that's what Donner wanted to go. I don't know if you blame Mario Puzo, who's like the original story, or the actual writers for the screenplay, or the director, or what. It's just an odd saying. It's a non-problem. See there? There's a different kind of non-problem.
That guy.
Non. I thought his name was Nam. It was Non. Oh, like Non. Does he have any dialogue?
I heard him speak in an interview, but I don't know. He grunts.
Yeah, there's a comment about him being an unthinking beast when he gets convicted, but whatever. Running short on time. You want to wrap anything else into this?
I can't think of anything. What are we going to rate this off of?
Kryptonian crystals is kind of lame. What is orange juices? Or what does he order at the Nova Scotia cafe? Hamburgers? Hot dogs?
I think he's going for a pizza in the Donner Cut.
Yeah, he does say he'll pick up the pizza. I forget in what cut. Which is also funny because that redneck would have no memory of beating Clark Kent up.
So I guess he flew back to Nova Scotia from Metropolis to get the pizza.
Yeah, he does order that. He does clearly order the pizza and pay for all the damages.
Yeah. We do skull caps in honor of Gene Hackman's bald cap, which was horrible.
Yeah, we'll do Gene Hackman caps. Wigs or headwear. Gene Hackman headwear.
Okay. He had multiple throughout, so.
Yeah, that was intentional to make it clear he was using wigs even though he didn't want to be bald.
I'm gonna let you go first.
I'm giving it 3 out of 5 Gene Hackman caps because it is enjoyable. It's worth watching. It's a miracle it exists. I'm glad it exists. I wish more stuff like this could exist, just these alternative cuts in this what if universe. And even though I think I prefer it to the theatrical version, I just don't love it. And I never loved the theatrical version. And I don't think either one of them are great Superman movies, even though Christopher Reeve is great. Gene Hackman, I don't know if he's great as Luthor. He's very good if he's not great. Margot Kidder, she's great for this cut as well. So you get all these great performances and very impressive set design for the most part, but I recommend it. I don't love it. I'm giving it 3 out of 5.
Okay. What would you give the lesser cut? 2.5?
I'm giving it close to 3, but I don't know if I go down. I don't know if it's between 2 and 5 or if it's also 3. I like this better, but I just don't know how much better.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I like the Donner cut better because I do feel like the Lester cut has a little bit too much humor, and I like how Donner kind of restricted the humor to Gene Hackman. I do appreciate that. So I probably agree with you. Now there are some problems with it. In function, it's probably more of a 2.5 out of 5 kind of thing. But I think if Donner had been able to complete it the way he wanted to, it would have been a 3. So I'll go with that. And I think the other movie's a 2, the Lester cut.
You go all the way down to a 2? Man, that's kind of harsh.
It was too much humor, and that kiss was stupid.
Man, it is stupid.
Donner almost gets a break off of this ending because he literally couldn't film anything different.
Oh, man.
But I don't know. I hate the ending for both. Both movies, in my opinion, Superman 1 and 2 are both overrated as movies. Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder are amazing. They're great. Perfect for Lois and Clark. But the movies themselves, overrated.
I feel a little bit that way with the original 89 Batman, with Keaton and Nicholson being great. But the movie plot just kind of leaves me wanting in the Burton Batman. Both of them, I guess. It would have been interesting to see if Donner had come back, where he would have tried to take the franchise next. But that's hypothetical, and who cares?
All right, well, that's been Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. You could also say it's Donner versus Lester cut.
So in honor of Richard Donner, kids, don't smoke and don't waste your money on furs. He's very much concerned about that, and he regrets their portrayal in the movies he filmed.
Oh, yeah. All the interviews I saw with him, he had a shirt on that had fur crossed out.
It's a tagline at the very end of the credits. I don't know if you saw that.
I don't think I caught that.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.